And this ability to survive for 1,000 generations more, to me, depends on a knowledge of self. Who are we? We cannot figure out what we're going to be unless we know who we are today. And who we are today depends on our knowledge of who we were back then. You see, our kupuna knew we one and the same. We are the culmination of all our kupuna. We are the culmination of all our kupuna. That's why our affinity with like the kalo. When you look at the kalo, people plant kalo, you guys know. Yeah? When you huki, cut the kohina, you get the huli ready. That huli came from the mama plant, the kumu, that oha. That's the same plant. In other words, the kalo we plant today, it's really the same kalo that was brought 2,000 years ago. That's the same kalo. Just like us. We was connected to our mothers. We are physically them. We are them, just like the kalo.
So for me, I was pretty much raised in Kaneohe. But my family goes back to Hawaii and to Maui, but we've been on the island of Oahu for a few generations. And for me, as I started to change, as I started to connect with the Aina, I used to just dive into looking at a lot of the old pictures of Hawaii, of where I'm from, of where my ancestors are from, on Kauai and Maui. And you see how fertile this place was. You read the mo'olelo that the Haulis wrote when they came, and they just were so amazed at their agriculture. When we look at Hawaii today, we see a lot of changes in not only the land, but the people as well. And I think for Hawaiians especially, it's important for them to connect to the story of Haloa through them getting in the lo'is. Because when we look at Haloa, when we connect to that mo'olelo in a very personal way, it gives us identity and it gives us place as Kanaka Maoli.
For us comes from our relatives, whether they have wings or fins or roots. And indeed, that is how we consider food. Food has a culture, it has history, it has stories, it has relationships that tie us to our food. Food is more than something you just buy at the store, something that just doesn't have a stamp on it.
I was raised in Seattle. I was born in Kahuku. I lived here a little bit in Laie when my parents were going to Vioi, Hawaii. My grandmother and my father are the Hawaiian connection that I had in Seattle. And pa'iai and making it and making poi, I think it was a blessing. And I'm grateful that I was able to do it because you never really get to do that in Seattle. And I kind of came a little bit closer to understanding what my people used to do and how they used to live every day, what they used to eat. It made me feel closer to them. And I for one know, and by the way that I've been raised, know that through your ancestors and choosing to be connected with them, you can gain strength from them that you wouldn't otherwise. Sometimes I think we don't realize how connected and how much strength and power we can receive from them, because they are closer than we sometimes think.
This is something that's within all of us. I mean, we've been born with it, and we need to recognize who we are, where we come from, and why we do it, you know, and what we do. This is something that should be always passed on. My grandfather, he did it. My parents didn't do it as much, but now being surrounded with friends who does it, and surrounded with other teachers and just learning from them, I finally realized that this is very important and something that I don't want to die out, and this is something that I want my kids to learn too when they're here. So it's very important, especially if it gives you the good vibes and if it teaches you good values. That's something I'm all about. So yeah, this is something that should keep on going for years, generations in the future.
I remember the days when we were younger. We used to catch opu in the mountain street.
So that it just helps you realize that the normal things of life that we do isn't just mundane, there's value in it. And when you take the time, like we're trying to do, you know, get back into producing our own me'ai, then, you know, you see things that you probably don't see.
In the making of your own food is the making of freedom.
When we connect to that mo'olelo, it brings power into our lives and it gives us place, because when we connect to that, we're connecting and we're creating those bonds of ohana. We see the aina is not just something, but we see it as our family, as our elder. We see haloa as not just a food, not just a commodity, not just something you buy in the stores in a plastic bag, but it is something real, and you're connected to that very personally. And once you have that view, you have a different place in this world, and you have different purpose, and your kuleana shift, and you'll be able to feel like how our ancestors of old felt, be how they were, even though we're in a different setting, in a different day. Those spiritual connections are a lot more important for us as we go forward.
But it's one quote that he has. Far worse than losing one's land is losing one's identity, culture, language, history. Repeat that again. Far worse than losing one's land is losing those things that provide us identity as a people. And see, the bottom line is this. You can get the land, but if you know more your identity, your self-understanding, your culture affiliation, kind of poho. The land is part of the picture. What's more important is the love for the land, the respect for the land, the affiliation and connection with the land. That's what's gonna make us live on as a people.